Welcome to TheTechCove. Here's Sean.
Hello all. This week we're going to answer the question, what does one blindie say to another? Anything they want with Vorel for iOS. Have part 2 of a series that was started last week. Check out a blogging app for the Mac.
Hello everyone, this is Lulu, and today I'm going to talk about a really awesome little app. It's called SelfieX. That is SelfieX. VoiceOver pronounces it Selfiex, but it is called SelfieX. I can remember a time when cameras were special. You took them on holidays or to special events, but you didn't have them all the time. These days it seems absolutely de rigueur to take pictures of everything you do. And with the improvement of quality and resolution and definition of cameras on cell phones, you can take a photograph anytime, any place, anywhere. And if you actually don't know how or don't trust yourself to take good quality pictures, you really can find yourself feeling very much out of the loop, or at least that is how I felt until I found this amazing and cool little app. This application was invented for people who wanted to take selfies using the back camera, which is of much better quality than the front camera of the Android or iPhone. What it basically does, it allows you to take selfies, which is a picture of yourself and whatever is going on in your background, using the back camera, and it gives you voice direction as to where to point the camera so that you can take a good picture. The app does have a few accessibility problems, but as it is so simple to use, there really aren't too many problems to work your way around, unless you want to start cropping and so forth. And if you want to do that, then you are going to need sighted assistance anyway. So in a moment we'll launch the app, and the camera immediately starts looking for you, as you will hear.
Selfiex. I can't see you. Button.
Now, I'm going to turn the phone towards me in a moment, and I'm going to hold the camera with my arm a little way out so it can capture me and some of my background. Now, usually I can get the camera exactly where I want it to be fairly fast, so let's see how I do.
Down. Down. Right. I can't see you. Say cheese.
Yay!
I can't see you.
So I got it to where I wanted it to be fairly quickly. Just going to close the app for a minute.
I can't see you.
Because she'll go on thinking that you want to take more selfies and keep chirping at you while I'm trying to explain things. I can take the best selfies in my left hand. What you need to do to take a good selfie is you need to hold the camera away from you a bit. I used to hold it right up close to my face, and she never, I always say she because it's a female voice right there, she never could see me properly. And when I did manage to get my face in center, all you could see was a great big close-up of my ugly mush and absolutely no background of anything whatsoever. Basically, you just got my face, no hair, no nothing, just a huge close-up of my teeth, my nose, my eyes, absolutely no background. And that's not what a selfie is about. So what you need to do is you need to hold the phone with your hand around the bottom of it, way out of the way of the camera. You need to hold it straight in your hand, straight up, which I'm doing now. I'm just trying to describe it for you the best way I can. And so you need to hold your arm a little bit outwards, slightly curved. If you hold it straight out, at least if I hold mine straight out, the camera gets too far away and she can't see you. So hold your arm curved, and it's about, I would say, maybe 6 to 8 inches away, and the lens about level with my nose. I wonder if that's about right. I think so. Now, the thing is, if I'm holding it in my left hand and she says left, then I would move my wrist, not the hand that's holding the phone, but just swivel my wrist a little way rightwards, not leftwards, because obviously I'm holding it in my left hand, so everything's upside down. If you can get it to work in your right hand, then obviously if she says right, then you would go right. basically, practice. I had a little bit of help before I could get the hang of it, but practice is the key. Now, the interesting thing about selfies is that you can share them. There is a sharing facility, which I'm going to show you now in a moment. There are also some extremely cool and rather funny alternate voices you can get. So I'm going to go back into the app now.
Selfies. I can't see you.
Now, she's still chirping. Let us show you what else is on the screen here.
Auto. Button.
I'm scared to press any of these buttons much because I'm scared I might switch to the front camera, and if I did, I wouldn't know.
Switch. Button.
That's the switch button, I
I
think.
can't see you.
That's an unlabeled button. I don't know what that is. I'm just swiping right with my finger, obviously double tapping on what I want.
Settings. Button.
Now we want to go here.
Settings. Menu.
There's a menu.
Options. Heading.
Now we're in options here.
Voices.
I'm going to look at that in a minute because I have a couple of the voices.
Sound. Switch button. On.
Yes, I do like the sound switched on. When I take a picture, I want to know.
Vibro. Switch button. On.
And I do like also the vibration switched on.
All apps. Heading. Star Walk 2.
Yes.
Solar Walk. Star. More app. Share. Heading.
Now, these are the sharing options right here. Double tapping on any of these options will allow you to post the selfie you've just taken. It always keeps the latest one right here on the screen to any of these places, and I use this a bit. Usually, if I want to post to Facebook, then I will post my selfie from the actual Facebook app because that's how I like to do it. But if I'm doing something really quickly on the fly, then I will actually post it right from this app.
Facebook.
So there's Facebook,
Twitter.
Twitter.
Email.
I can email a selfie to a friend.
About. Heading. Rate.
Feedback.
Copyright sign 2015 Veto Technology, Inc.
Let's go back to the beginning of the screen here.
Back. Button.
Okay, so I've gone back to the top of the screen, and that's the back button at the top left here.
Menu. Options. Voices.
Now, usually, I would use the default voice. It's all you need. And there are reasons why using any of the others can be a bit annoying sometimes, but they have got some very fun alternatives, a couple of which I bought. And also, SelfieX does come in other languages, as you will see. So let's just have a look at these voice alternatives here.
Abigail Plumbington, English.
I just want to go back because I don't think that's the first one.
Default. Restore. Voices. Default. English.
So, here's default.
Check. Button. Abigail Plumbington, English.
Let's see what she sounds like.
Play. Button.
Abigail Plumbington at your service, sweetheart.
Now, the voices aren't just, I can't see you, up, down, left, right. These ones are fun voices. As well as actually telling you what you need to know, they will make asides and fun remarks and kind of make you laugh, as well as actually helping you to use the app.
£0.79. Alex. Russian.
So there's a Russian voice.
Play. Button.
I wonder if he's actually in English or in Russian. Let's see.
Привет, меня зовут Алекс.
He's in Russian.
£0.7. Brother man. English.
He's in English. I haven't heard him. Let's hear what he sounds
Play.
like.
Button.
Come on, let's take some pictures.
Cartoon voice. Okay, fine.
£0.79. But Diane Boyer A.M. French.
So we have a French voice.
Play. Button.
Salut, je peux vous aider?
£0. Diane Boyer P.M. French. Play. Button.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Diane Boyer.
Oh, she's nice, isn't she? Well, she spoke English. I like that voice.
£0. Dr. Toom. German.
And here's a German voice.
Play. Button.
Freue mich, dich kennenzulernen. Ich bin Dr. Tom.
£0.7. Don Juan. Spanish.
We have a Spanish voice.
Play. Button.
Hola, ¿qué tal? Soy Don Juan y no... Hoy no vengo a conquistarte, vengo a que tú me conquistes. ¿Me regalas tu mejor sonrisa?
I think that guy is a nice one for the ladies.
£0. Dusky Roads. English. Play. Button.
Well, howdy, partner. My name's Dusty. Dusty Rhodes.
£0 and Carlson, Russian.
And we have another Russian voice here.
Play button.
Привет. Меня зовут Карлсон, который живет на крыше.
£0 Lorenzo Conti, Italian. Play button.
Ciao, come va?
Oh, that was short and sweet.
Lucky Lee, Japanese. Play button. Play.
That was short too.
Sexy Sid, English.
Now,
Circle button.
do you see that? I have to admit to owning this voice. I don't use it where anyone can hear me, usually, and in a moment you'll see why. But I just couldn't resist this voice.
Oh, it is wonderful to see you.
Vinny, English. Circle button.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Vinny.
And I also have that one. And actually, he makes me laugh. And that is all of them. So, as you can hear, 79 pence per voice, which is what, 99 cents? Something like that. So, who shall we play? I don't think I can cope with doing Sexy Sid for you, because he really has a very nice line in blush-makingly cheesy compliments, and Brian's sitting over there. I might get my ears boxed. So we'll do Vinny.
Vinny, English.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Vinny.
English. Check button.
Hey, how you doing? My name's Vinny.
Selected. Vinny, English.
There we go. So there's Vinny. Now, if I go back, we will take a selfie with Vinny.
Back button. Back. Auto button.
I don't see ya.
Okay, yeah, I know, because I haven't turned the camera around yet.
Okay, let's try this again. This time, maybe you can make a better pose, huh?
I made an alright pose last time. Okay, I've turned the camera
What
around.
if I get a manicotti recipe for you, huh? What, you don't want it? So my mom says when you're done here, you can come over to our house for dinner. Hey, that's a pretty sweet offer, you know what I'm talking about?
Come on, tell me where to go.
So you probably picked up on the fact that I'm Italian, huh? Hey, maybe you're Italian too. You ever been hit with a wooden spoon? Or had a shoe thrown at you? Hey, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Camera.
that's why.
Auto.
Okay,
All right, what are you doing? Playing hide and seek on me here? I don't see you. Hold it. Down a little more. That's what I'm talking about right there.
there we go.
That one's a keeper. Okay, right now. All right then, let's not hang around. Let's get it done, huh?
Okay, the reason he wasn't talking to me except for asides there was because sometimes you have to make sure that the camera button is pressed. Right on the top left-hand side, you have a camera button, and sometimes if it's not saying I can't see you or something similar, try just pressing that again, double tapping that again, and you will get somewhere. So that is Selfie X. Usually I would use the default voice, but if you want a bit of fun and something different, you can use one of the alternatives. They really are quite fun. I love the apt pieces. I use it a lot wherever I go. It never lets me down. And it really is possible to take faultlessly good selfies with a bit of practice. I really hope that I've given you a good idea of it, and I hope you enjoy using it.
You know when tech has gone truly mainstream when a phone call with your parents includes a 10-minute conversation about how their Windows 10 upgrade went. Today's technology, well, for the most part, it's sleek, it's approachable, it's friendly. Everything about it, from design aesthetics, user interface, and even articles and reviews written about tech, it's all aimed at the average person in the street. Now, don't get me wrong, of course this is a good thing, but it wasn't always this way. There was another time. A time where tech was the domain of one type of person. Tech belonged to the nerd. Back then, computers required commitment, whether resolving IRQ conflicts or editing the mystical autoexec.bat and config.sys. It was a labour of love. And as for articles and reviews, it was like reading an accountant's spreadsheet. It was just full of numbers and bar charts. And the most important number of all, the benchmark. Benchmarking software would test the performance of a hardware component or computer system and assign it a score, a set point or reference against which things can be compared. If you wanted your Doom 2 or Quake to run faster, which was the fastest CPU, Pentium or Athlon? Benchmarking was the answer. Of course, benchmarking is still here today, but it's been relegated to maybe one line in a review. It's been replaced with friendlier terms such as smooth as butter or as slow as wading through treacle. Well, today we're going to go back and embrace the inner nerd. For Linux, Mac, Windows, Android and iOS, this is Geekbench. So, with every aspect of today's technology being targeted at a wider audience, it's true that benchmarking is no longer in the limelight like it once was. But it's still an important and useful tool for the tech enthusiast. There's benchmarking software available to test all sorts of hardware. Benchmarking is all about comparison. Run the same benchmarking software on different hardware, and the one with the best score has the best performance. But it's not always just about finding which has the best performance. It's also about bang for buck. For example, if you've got two graphics cards, one costing $150 and one costing $250, just how much faster is the more expensive card? Is it worth the extra money? And it's the same for most hardware. Is it worth upgrading your Haswell CPU to the new Skylake CPU? Well, benchmarking can help you decide. So today we have Geekbench from Primate Labs. It's a very popular cross-platform app designed to benchmark processors. It will run through a series of intensive real-world tasks, such as encrypting files or compressing images, to see just how well that processor performs. So let's get to it. I'm going to benchmark a few different devices today. Let's start with the iPhone 6s. So I've installed Geekbench from the App Store. It was 79p or 99 cents. Let's start it up.
740 gear toolbar white. Button. Geekbench 3. Heading. 739 question toolbar white. Button.
As you can hear, we've got two slightly weirdly labelled buttons there. The first one, 740 gear, will take you to the settings menu. Now there's not much in there. In fact, there's only one item to link to your Dropbox. If you do this, you're able to upload your benchmark results to your Dropbox. The second button, labelled 739 question, is a help screen. The next section is the device summary.
System information. Model, iPhone 6s, iPhone 8, 1. OS, iOS 9, 2, 1. Processor, Apple A9 at 1.85 GHz. Memory, 1.96 GB.
And finally, we have some pretty self-explanatory buttons.
Run processor benchmark. Button. Run battery benchmark. Button. Previous benchmarks. Button.
So the processor benchmark I'm going to run in a minute. That'll give us our benchmark score. Now the battery benchmark is an interesting one. When your battery is fully charged to 100%, you'll run this benchmark and it'll run a test that monitors how quickly your battery depletes. So using this you can tell just how healthy or strong your battery is. Now this can take a long time, we're talking hours. I did run this test and after 1 hour 28 minutes I was down to 78%, which is a good indication that the battery is good, but a bad indication that I've got a real smartphone addiction and I couldn't do without my phone for more than 90 minutes. And the last button, as it says, previous benchmarks. It's an archive of benchmarks you've run in the past and you can browse through them. And that's pretty much it. Very simple interface, nice and easy. So let's click on the processor benchmark button.
Run processor benchmark. Button. Processor benchmark. Heading. 0.06. Running Dijkstra. Progress. 51%. Running benchmarks. Ellipsis. Cancel. Button.
So as soon as you hit the processor benchmark button, the test starts. The information displayed on the screen there is time elapsed, the name of the current test it's running, which in this case was Dijkstra. This is just one of around 22 tests it runs during the benchmark, and as I said before, they're all tests based on what you really would do with a device. Dijkstra, for example, calculates multiple driving routes to various destinations. Next is a progress bar, and finally a cancel button. Now obviously how long the benchmark takes depends how fast the processor is. On the iPhone 6s, it took around 15 seconds. When the benchmark has finished, you'll be shown the results screen.
Home. Back button. Results. Heading. Upload. Button.
The upload button allows you to share your results. The two default options in there are sent to the Geekbench website. They keep a database of all the devices and benchmark results. Or you can email the results to somebody. Next, we have 3 buttons that give you 3 different ways to view the benchmark data.
Selected. Result. Button. 1 of 3. Single core. Button. 2 of 3. Multi-core. Button. 3 of 3.
Selected by default is the result button. Now this will give you a very detailed overview of the benchmark. Most importantly, of course, the Geekbench scores. The single core and multi-core buttons will again show your device's Geekbench score, but it will also display a list of other popular devices and their Geekbench scores for comparison.
Geekbench score. 2,528 single core score. 4,400 multi-core score.
And there we have it, the all-important Geekbench scores. They're split into two, single core and multi-core. Now, without getting too bogged down in the details, basically, most if not all processors nowadays come with multi-cores. This allows the processor to execute multiple instructions simultaneously. However, just to make things more complicated, firstly, software needs to be specially written to take advantage of multi-cores, and secondly, not all software needs or even benefits from using multiple cores. All the Geekbench tests are able to take advantage of multi-core, and so it gives you a score for both. Now the next section in the result page gives you a very detailed breakdown of your device.
Geekbench 3.4.0 for iOS ARch64. System information. Operating system. Table start. iOS 9.2.1. Model. iPhone 6s. Model ID. iPhone 8.1. Motherboard. N71 map. Processor. Apple A9 at 1.85 GHz. 1 processor, 2 cores. Processor ID. ARM. L1 instruction cache. 64.0 kilobytes. L1 data cache. 64.0 kilobytes. L2 cache. 3.00 megabytes. L3 cache. 0.00B. Memory. 1.96 gigabytes. Table end.
Hey, don't fall asleep, this stuff is interesting. Well, it is if you're a nerd. Anyway, so the final section is a list of all the tests it ran during the benchmark and their corresponding results. I won't go through the whole list here, I'll just give you a taste.
AES. Single core. 1187. 1.02 gigabytes/sec. AES. Multi-core. 2746. 2.35 gigabytes/sec. Twoffish. Single core. 1781. 100.0 megabytes/sec. Twoffish. Multi-core. 3464. 194.4 megabytes/sec.
As you can hear, the tests do have slightly cryptic names, but if you do want to know what a specific test does, you can go to the Geekbench support page and you'll find a list there. So that's the information displayed under the results button. If we go back up to the top and tap on the single core button, we can see how the 6S stacks up against other devices.
Single core comparison. Your device Apple A9 2528.
Top of the list there is this device, the iPhone 6S, and its single core Geekbench score. Hey, I've turned into Eminem. But also on this list are other devices and their single-core Geekbench scores. Let's take a look.
iPad Air 2 Apple A8X 1808. iPhone 6 Apple A8 1613. iPhone 6 Plus Apple A8 1609. iPad Air Apple A7 1473. iPhone 5S Apple A7 1400. iPad Mini, Retina, Apple A7 1384.
I'll stop it there, I won't go through the whole list of Apple devices. So as you can see, the 6S with a Geekbench single-core score of 2,528 is quite a bit faster than the iPad Air 2 with a single-core score of 1,808. It would be nice if devices such as the iPad Pro and the iPhone 6S Plus was in the list as well, but they're not currently, but I'm sure they'll be added. Now let's check the multi-core comparison list.
Multi-core comparison. Your device Apple A9 4400. iPad Air 2 Apple A8X 4529. iPhone 6 Plus Apple A8 2888.
Okay, we don't need to go through the whole list again. Look at those numbers. What's happening there? The iPhone 6S has a score of 4,400, but the iPad Air 2 has a multi-core score of 4,529. It's faster. So why is that? Well, it is true that the iPad Air 2 has an older processor, but the A8 chip in the iPad Air 2 has 3 cores, while the one in the iPhone 6S, the A9 chip, only has 2 cores. So because of that extra core, the A8 can hold its own against the newer A9 chip, at least when it comes to utilizing multi-cores. However, as you can see, the scores are still very close. Even with the A9 chip only having 2 cores, the actual speed of the processor does make up for it. And that's about it for the iOS app. As you can see, the interface really is nice and easy, and it's basically the same no matter what platform you're running it on. Now, as for the actual Geekbench scores themselves, well, what do they mean? To be honest, on their own, the numbers mean nothing. As I've said all the way through, benchmarking is all about comparison. If we look at the 6S score,
Geekbench score, 2,528 single-core score, 4,400 multi-core score.
The numbers are meaningless. But if I now benchmark my old iPhone 4S,
Geekbench score. 204 single-core score. 378 multi-core score.
Suddenly the numbers mean something, there's a point of reference. You can see that the 6S is nearly 12 times faster than the 4S. And on that note, actually, it took 3 minutes to complete the benchmark on my 4S, compared to the 15 seconds on the 6S. Anyway, as you can see, benchmarking can be a really useful tool when deciding what your next upgrade is going to be. So now you know the basics of Geekbench, let's quickly run through some benchmarks on other devices. Let's benchmark an Android device, my 2013 Nexus 7.
Model, Asus Nexus 7, 2013. OS, Android 6.0.1. CPU, Qualcomm Snapdragon S4 Pro APQ8064. CPU speed, 1.51 GHz. GPU, Adreno TM320. Memory, 1.76 GB. Run benchmarks button. Alert Geekbench 3. Running benchmarks 3 period. 25%. Cancel button. Double tap to select. Geekbench score. 570. Single core score. 1686. Multi-core score.
As you can hear, accessibility-wise, Geekbench on Android is fine. A little tedious to navigate, but fine. All the information you'd expect to be there is there, including the single-core and multi-core buttons for comparison lists. And with all the variation in Android devices, reading the comparison list can be quite interesting. Well, no, let me rephrase that actually. It's mind-numbingly boring to everyone else, but if you're a nerd, it's quite interesting. So that's it for benchmarking mobile devices. Let's move on to computers. Let's Geekbench Windows. You can buy Geekbench for Windows, Mac or Linux for £6 each, or you can buy one license for all for £10. There's also a pro version of Geekbench with features such as command line and the ability to run from a flash drive, but for most people the standard version is all you need. But if you do just want to take a look at Geekbench, you can use it in tryout mode. This does have some limitations. You can only run the benchmark in 32-bit mode, and you need to be online. Okay, let's run Geekbench.
Geekbench RE. System Information Grouping Operating System. Operating System. Text. Microsoft Windows 10 Pro. 64-bit. Text. Processor. Text. Intel Core i7 3615QM at 2.29 GHz. Text. Model. Text. Apple Incorporated. Mac Mini 6. 2 text. Memory. Text. 8.00 GB DDR3 SDRAM-1 MHz. Text.
So there's the system information. I'm running this on a Mac Mini bootcamped with Windows 10. Now I'm using NVDA as my screen reader, and sadly nothing on this page is accessible. I'm unable to put focus on anything, so I just hit the NVDA key and B to read the whole page, which is fine for reading the system summary, but as you'll see there are some controls here.
Benchmark Architecture Grouping. 32-bit benchmarks radio button checked. 64-bit benchmarks radio button not checked. Ready to run the benchmarks text. Geekbench works best when it's the only application running text. Run benchmarks button.
We have 2 radio buttons for selecting 32 or 64-bit benchmarking, and I'm unable to put focus on any of them, and it's the same for the Start Benchmark button. The 32-bit radio button is on by default, but if you want to change it to 64-bit, I haven't found a way to do that, at least by using the keyboard. I had to use the Windows magnifier and the mouse if I wanted to change it to the 64-bit mode. It's not a showstopper, 32-bit mode is fine for a benchmark, but obviously for a more complete benchmark it would be nice if we could access the 64-bit mode. Now even though the Start Benchmark button isn't accessible, we can use a keyboard shortcut for that. Control R will start the benchmark.
Benchmark progress dialog. Current workload, JPEG decompress elapsed, 0 hours, 0 minutes, and 29 seconds. Cancel button.
When the benchmark's finished, a new window will pop up with the results.
Untitled Geekbench RE. Geekbench score. Heading Level 1 Geekbench score. 2,699. Single core score. 10,362. Multi-core score.
Wow, my single core score on my i7 isn't actually that much faster than on my iPhone 6s. But the multi-core score is a lot more. And that's because I think anyway the i7 has 4 cores. Anyway, this results page is accessible, thankfully. And as we've seen before, it contains all the usual extra information. One thing it doesn't have though is the comparison lists. You can upload the results to the Geekbench website like with the other versions, and also you can browse other similar systems on the Geekbench website. But I'm not quite sure why they don't have a quick comparison list here, but maybe it's because of all the different combinations of hardware you can have in a computer, but still a general reference comparison list would be nice. Now let's run Geekbench on the Mac.
Geekbench 3. System information. Model. Mac Mini Late 2, 0, 1, 2. Processor. Intel Core i7 3615QM 2.3, 0GHz. Memory. 8.0, 0GB1, 6, 0, 0MHz DDR3. Operating system. Mac OS X1, 0.1, 0.2 Build 1, 4C1, 0, 9. Ready to run the benchmarks. Geekbench works best when it is the only application running. Processor. Intel, 3, 2-bit, pop-up button. Run benchmarks button.
Thankfully, there's no accessibility issues on the Mac version. I can access the 32-bit or 64-bit pop-up button easily, as well as the Run Benchmark button.
Press Run Benchmarks button. Benchmark progress. Current workload. Progress. 14.5% progress indicator. Elapsed. 0, 0, 0, 0, 2, 1. Cancel benchmarks button.
And just as in the Windows version, when the benchmark's finished, a window will pop up with the results.
Geekbench score HTML content. Geekbench score. 2, 6, 1, 9. Single core score. 9, 9, 4, 1. Multi-core score.
As you'd expect using the same hardware, these scores are in line with the scores I got in Windows. Again, after the Geekbench scores, you do get the detailed benchmark information underneath. And also, like the Windows app, there is no single or multi-core comparison list you can check from within the app. Now, I don't have a Linux system to test. I know, I should be ashamed of myself. I can't call myself a nerd without Linux. Although going off Geekbench on all the other platforms, I'm pretty sure the structure of the app is going to be the same. Now, another feature the Geekbench software has on the computer platforms anyway, is the stress test. And it pretty much does what it says. It puts the hardware under stress. The reason for this is if you think your processor's faulty, maybe you're getting irregular crashes, or perhaps you've overclocked your CPU and you want to make sure it's stable. Well, you can start a stress test and this will basically run the same tests it does during the benchmark, but it will keep running until you tell it to stop. If your CPU is still up and running after a couple of hours of working flat out, the chances are it's probably okay. And I think that's enough for now. We're going to wrap up there. So that's the basics of benchmarking. It is a useful tool when it comes to smartphones and mobile devices, just to see what performance increases are over the last generation. But benchmarking becomes really useful when you get onto the computer side of things. With computers, you can tweak things, you can change hardware, well, for the most part. And being able to test what effect these changes have on performance is really useful. So now you know, get out there and get your geek on.
My name is Mike Malarsi, and in this podcast, I'm going to show you guys my favorite blogging software on the Mac called MarsEdit 3. If you're a serious blogger or you're thinking about getting serious, I highly recommend this program. It comes in just shy of $40, so it's kind of expensive, but there are some really valuable things that it can offer. One of my favorite features is how easy it is to embed images into your post, upload them straight to your website with alt text included. It's also a great offline blogging tool, so if you want to write when you're on an airplane or basically away from the internet at any point, you can write your content and save it. Then when you get back to the internet, open it up, hit publish, and you're good to go. No more typing in a text editor than having to copy and paste into a web browser. This makes it so much easier. MarsEdit is compatible with a lot of popular blogging services out there, so if you use WordPress or Blogger or Tumblr or Typepad or quite a few other ones, you're probably supported. If you're not sure, you can go to red-sweater.com/MarsEdit to check out all the details for yourself. If while you're there you decide you want to give it a shot, you can download a 30-day free trial and put it through its paces before you decide if you want to buy it or not. I'm going to go to MarsEdit now and we'll start having a look around.
MarsEdit.
Now, the first time you open MarsEdit, it's going to ask you to type in the title of your blog and give it the URL. Once you do that, it's going to auto-configure a lot of the settings. Then it's going to ask you for your username and password. Type that in one time and you're good to go. You're never going to have to do it again. It's going to automatically pull in all of your posts and pages and let you edit them with ease. So at the very top of the screen here, if I scroll to the right,
Toolbar.
this toolbar here is probably going to become your friend. This is where you're going to come to edit or delete your posts, to add images to them, to refresh them, to view them online, all of the basic kind of functions of the program here. This is where you're going to find them. Just past this toolbar here are two tables. The first one is going to show us the list of blogs we have connected. The second one is going to show us the details of that. So I'm going to go to the first table.
Table, row 2 of 5. Local.
Interact with it.
Interact with table, row 2. Selected. Blogs, expanded.
Okay, the very top thing is our blogs. And you can have a whole bunch of them connected or just one. So whatever you need.
Local drafts, level 2.
Local drafts, I mentioned that. So if you write something offline and save it, you can find them all right here.
Malarcy Project.
The Malarcy Project, this is my website. This is malarcy.com. And when I linked it to Mars Edit here, I just titled it the Malarcy Project. If I keep scrolling down.
Posts, level 3.
We have all of the posts and pages that I've published on my site. So basically, if I go to pages, the table on the right is going to show all then to me. If I go to posts, then stop interacting with the table on the left, go into the one on the right.
Table, title, adaptive sports are team building and shred. Happiness is a choice.
We have all of the blogs that I've published over on my website. Now, like I said, that toolbar is going to have all of the things that you want to edit or delete, basically to do anything with stuff here that's already created. I could stop interacting and scroll to the left, or I can just hit tab to go through what's available.
Malarcy Project, new post button. Delete post button, edit post button, refresh button, view on web button.
It really is a simple interface. You have two tables. The one on the left will let you view parts of your blog, and the table on the right will let you look at specific individual items. So if I wanted to edit something, all I have to do is scroll to it in the table on the right, hit tab a couple times to edit, then it will let me modify the title, the tags, and the content itself. And when I'm done, I can just scroll to the publish button or hold Command and Shift and push D to send it right back up to my site. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of this post that it makes creating content, adding images, and alt text really easy. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. I've only got one blog connected here, so I can hit Command N, and it's going to send whatever my new content is straight to that blog. If you have more than one, all you need to do is scroll to the one that you want in that left-hand table. Then when you hit Command N, it's going to send it to that particular blog that you've got highlighted. So let's go ahead and do that now. Command N.
New post, untitled, window, title, edit text.
And we immediately are shown a text field to add our title. So I'm just going to type this is a test, hit tab one time, or I can just scroll to the right using VO right arrow.
Tags, edit text.
And we get to our tags. If you're a blogger, you're familiar with this. So just add them in there, separate them by commas, and when you publish, they'll be inserted along with your post. Hitting tab one more time will take us to our rich text editor.
Edit text insertion at beginning of text.
Now, the first time that you create a new post, it's probably going to ask you if you want to edit in HTML or in rich text. You can pick the one that you prefer, but know that you can always change it at any time. There's options up in the menu to do that, or you could just hold Command and Shift and push T to jump back and forth. So since we're here in our rich text area, I'm going to type a really generic sentence.
This. Space. Space. Sounds great. Right? Question.
All right, so here we go.
This is a test sentence. Sounds great, right? New lot for more. Space. Visit. S.com. Period.
Okay.
For more podcasts, visit applevis.com.
Okay, so you get the idea. You type whatever you want. Now, one of the things that I love about Mars Edit is it makes formatting text really easy. So if you know HTML, you can code it by hand. But if you don't, that's totally okay. So I'm going to show you.
Apple visit.
Let's say we want applevis.com to be a link. All I'm going to do is highlight it. Hit VO Shift M to open its submenu.
Menu. Format. Submenu.
And in format.
Submenu. Link. Ellipsis.
We have link.
Edit text, blank, interact with dialog, for, window, this is a test, edit text.
All you have to do here is type in the link of the website that you want it to go to. So I'll just http://applevis.com and jump all the way to the right and push OK.
Edit text, applevis.com is selected, link, applevis.com.
And as you can hear, applevis is now a link. Super easy. Now, there are other formatting options. If you do that very same process, you can find options to make lists or headings or really almost any other basic HTML function that you might want. If you know HTML and want to code by hand, again, Command-Shift-T will switch it to HTML.
Edit HTML text. Edit text insertion at end of text. P, this is a test sentence. Sounds great, right? Less than / P greater than.
Now, you didn't hear it on my computer, but the first time you do that, it's going to warn you about converting it, and it's going to tell you that things might change. There's a little checkbox to tell it to not remind you about that again. Just go ahead and hit convert. Everything's going to be fine. But if I scroll around now, you can hear that it's added in P tags and the link tag.
P for more podcast visit. Less than href equals http/ applevis.com greater than applevis.com less than / a greater than less than / p greater than.
Okay, so for those of you that know HTML, that's going to make perfect sense. But as you guys literally just heard, you don't need to know any HTML to be able to use it in your content. Now let's say we wanted to add an image. Let's go ahead and convert this back to rich text with Command-Shift-T.
Edit rich text. Edit text insertion at beginning.
And we'll say we want to put the picture at the very top. So I'm just going to scroll all the way up.
Helvetica.
Make sure I'm at the very top. Good to go. Now, to add an image, we're going to go back to that toolbar that's way over on the left. So you can stop interacting and scroll that way. Or again, just hit Tab.
New category. Add button. Published. Pop. None. Pop. Open. Pop. Accept. Send to blog. Save as draft. Options button. Preview button. Media button.
And we want media. So VO space on this.
Media manager.
And now if we scroll to the right.
On my Mac, select published tab 2 of Flickr tab 3 of 3.
Okay, 3 options there. Stuff that's on your Mac, things you've already published, or Flickr if that's what you use. If we keep going to the right.
Table, row 2 of 2. Pictures, selected.
That's the folder that it's currently looking in. Pictures is fine.
Image. Upload to. Miller Z Project. Dimmed pop-up button.
That's where it's going to upload to. Again, if you have multiple blogs, you can change that. It won't be dimmed for you.
Horizontal splitter. Section. Dimmed text. Image browser. List.
And this is the main thing we're looking for. This is going to show us all the pictures that are in my pictures folder. So I can interact with it.
With Miller Z Project logo. Image.
And we'll go ahead and use that logo. So I can stop interacting. Keep going to the right.
Style. Unaligned. Pop-up button.
We have some styling options. You can leave it unaligned or put it to the left or the right or center, or you can customize it depending on what you want to do.
File. Miller Z Project logo.jpg. Content selected. Edit text.
We've got the name of our file.
Alt. Text. Miller Z Project logo.
And alt text. So it's populated by default. You can go ahead and erase that and type something descriptive. You guys all know the importance of alt text.
Mike's awesome logo.
All right.
Mike's awesome logo.
So not very descriptive, but it'll work.
Width.
Keep going to the
600
right.
point. Content height. 600 point. Content
Sizing
selected.
options.
28.6%. 3 images. Search text field. Treat as retina image. Checked. Checkbox. Insert. Default button.
And insert. So really all you need to do is go to that browser area, find the picture you want, add in the alt text, and push insert.
Press insert. Default button.
Once you hit insert, that picture is not going to be in your blog post, but it did add one new section that I want to show you. If you go ahead and hit tab, we'll get back to our title.
This is a test. Content select.
All right, tab again will take us to our tags.
Tags. Edit text.
And then we have the new section.
Uploads. Table.
Uploads. If you have multiple pictures, you can scroll through here and see everything that you can upload. We don't need that. We've only got one thing, so tab one more time will take us back to our rich text area.
Edit text insertion on Word.
And now if I scroll to the top.
Mike's awesome logo. Image. T.
You can hear that the logo is there and my alt text is in place. Just like before, if I want to view the code itself, Command-Shift-T will switch to HTML and I can see the image tag, review everything, and make any changes I might want. But again, there's absolutely no need. Once you're done writing your content, you can scroll to the right past this rich text area and you'll get some final options that you may or may not need before you actually publish.
New category. Edit text.
You have the option to add a category.
Add button. Server options. Post status. Published. Pop-up button.
You can set this to published or draft or private if you want to.
Text filter. None. Pop-up. Comments. Open. Pop-up button.
You can allow or disallow comments.
Trackbacks. Accept. Uncheck. Checkbox.
And the same thing with trackbacks. The very last thing here in Mars Edit.
Editing draft. 13 words. 69 characters.
Just some details on what we're editing. Once you're done and you're ready to publish your content, just hold Command and Shift and hit D to send it to your website. If you've been blogging through a web browser for any length of time, you're probably kind of understanding the value in this program. It's never been easier to create content and get it straight on your site. And in my experience, dealing with images, adding alt text, especially if you don't know how to code, can really be a hassle, but Mars Edit makes it an absolute breeze. Back in that toolbar, there's even an option to preview your post. So once you write everything out, you can go and hit preview and it'll show you exactly what your post is going to look like on your website. So you can make sure everything's in order, that it all looks fantastic. And again, when you're ready, Command-Shift-D, send it straight to your website. This is one of those programs that I feel like hearing about it is kind of one thing. It can still sort of be confusing, but once you actually get it and try it out, it starts to make a lot of sense really quickly, and it won't take long before you really understand the value of it. And again, you can get a 30-day free trial by visiting red-sweater.com/MarsEdit. So why not give it a shot? If you've got a Mac and you're a serious blogger, I highly recommend that you give Mars Edit a look. For me, it's been absolutely worth every penny. I appreciate all of you guys for taking the time to listen to this podcast. If you have any questions or comments on Mars Edit or the Mac in general, feel free to reach out. I'm on Twitter at Mike Malarcy. Thank you so much for listening, everybody. We absolutely appreciate it. Happy blogging, folks.
Welcome to CoolBlindTech.com.
Support for Cool Blind Tech is provided by eSight, digital eyewear that provides people with legal blindness to actually see. People with low vision use the eyewear for just about everything. Reading, seeing the faces of their family, and even at work. Visit esighteyewear.com to schedule a demo and to find out more about this amazing technology.
Welcome to Cool Blind Tech's Reaper Podcast, Episode 2. In this episode, we're going to do some basic recording and editing. Stay tuned. So I have Reaper X64 loaded up with NVDA latest version, Asara, Windows 8.1, and we're just going to do some basic recording and editing here. I'm using the basic default sound card settings and just a USB microphone to get this done. I'm not going to go fancy on you guys. This is more about the concepts than the quality or the latency or anything like that. First, we're going to make a track with Control-T.
Track 1 property page track name.
There's a bunch of garbage there, but essentially what you care about is just start typing. Hit NVDA plus tab to make sure you're in the edit box.
Edit focused. Lang.
We are. Let's put CBT1.
Track view. 1 CBT1 0 items.
Let's do that again. Control-T.
Track view. Track 2 property page track name. Track view. 2 CBT2 0.
So CBT1 and CBT2. This is going to be me talking to myself, so let's make it quick, and then we'll edit some stuff out, and we'll get out of here.
Armed.
You can arm your track with F7.
Normal.
And F8 is your monitor.
Not when playing. Record monitor off.
As you could hear because I was echoing there. So let's go into project properties here.
That's Alt-Enter.
Project settings dialog. Default media format for project/region render. Tab 1 tab control. Media tab selected.
We're going to remain on the media tab, and we're just going to crawl through this dialog with the tab key.
OK button. Cancel button. Save as default project settings button. Property page default media format for project/region render. Path to save media files can be relative. Leave blank for same path as project file. Edit blank.
And this allows us to change our path for media files for the project. So we're going to put CBT demo.
CBT demo.
And I'll show you around the rest of this dialog page real quick.
Browse button. Secondary recording path blank for none. Can be enabled per track. Edit.
Secondary recording path. We don't need that.
Browse button. Recording grouping. Audio format for new recordings. Combo box WAV collapsed.
Let's change that to FLAC with the F key, of course.
FLAC. Media format for apply FX. Glue freeze. Combo box automatic.wav recommended collapsed.
Gluing items is when you can combine 2 or more items together to make one item. And you might want to do this for, a podcast that you're editing where people keep talking and you have to split it 800 times, or guitar tracks with a lot of different items and splits and things like that. We'll get into items and splitting and all that later. But essentially, it allows you to combine multiple items into one thing.
Not set button. Recording grouping. FLAC encoding depth. Combo box 16-bit collapsed.
That's fine.
Data compression. Combo box 5 default
That's
collapsed.
Fine.
Tab 1 tab control. Media cancel button. OK button.
And there we are.
Press. Unsaved project Reaper V5.1.
Okay, so we have our 2 tracks and our project path is set.
1 CBT1.
So now we're going to go back into...
Soloed. Unsoloed.
Oops.
Armed.
So we're going to arm track 1.
Normal.
Check.
Not when play. Record monitor off.
Just making sure the monitor is where, that we have our microphone set properly. And let's do a alt left arrow to pan this to the left.
1% left. 28%. 30% left.
That'll be good enough.
2 CBT20.
And then let's alt right arrow to pan this to the right.
1%. 26. 30% right.
This way we can distinguish me 1, me 2, and of course the narrating of this podcast.
1 CBT1.
Let's continue.
Unarmed. Armed.
We're armed, and let's record a track. We're here to talk to you about multi-track editing. So, what's multi-track editing? There's track 1, recorded, happily. And I just cut some of that out so you don't have to hear the whole thing. And let's go to track 2.
Unarmed.
Let's make sure to unarm track 1.
2 CBT20 items. Armed.
Arm track 2, and let's record another pass of this little file here. This is Alex 1. This is Alex 2. And we're here to talk to you about multi-track recording and editing. Oh,
Isn't
my
that
God.
cool?
Yes, it is. Oh, yeah. Let's disarm track 2.
Unarmed.
First.
1 CBT.
Now let's make some editing jobs on this. Now, there's one little belch I want to get out at the beginning. It's not really a belch. It's actually pretty wimpy, but we're going to cut it out. So we're going to do Control left arrow to select the first item on the track.
101 CBT11.
This is Alex 1. This is Alex 2. I could just hit page down to beat through this this file. This is Alex 1. This is Alex 2.
R4.
Oh my God, yeah, totally. So let's actually go by beat. Actually, let's just play and then Control space to pause it. Oh my God, yeah, totally. So right there's going to be a little burp. Okay? And let's just nuke the burp. So we're going to do that by hitting A.
One item added.
And then we're going to hit space and then control space at the end of the belch, and we're going to get rid of it. So now we can just hit A again.
One item added.
Now before we make this delete, let's talk about editing modes. You have 3 editing modes, and you can discover what they are by hitting Alt-P. You got 3 cycling editing modes here.
Ripple per track. Ripple all tracks. Ripple off.
The way that I've heard it described, and I'm going to totally just copy this example, imagine you have 10 marbles on a desk. And you take out 4 of those marbles, so you have 6 marbles left. You take the 4 out of the middle. And so now there's a huge gap, right? You'd expect. But now, here's the thing. With ripple off, that will just leave the marbles that were on the left and the right where they are. So they won't change, they won't veer around, they will not slide together. They will remain unchanged. There'll just be a big silence in the middle of your file.
Ripple per track.
Ripple per track means that if you had 3 tracks with 10 marbles on the desk and you take out 4 from the center of the second track, only that track will move together, okay? So basically that will shrink and all the marbles will be crushed together instead of being spaced out like the gap is gone, okay?
Ripple all tracks.
And that's the same concept, except when you do a cut on one track, all of them move. So if you cut out a little item on one track, the rest of the tracks will snap together by the length of that item that was removed on all tracks. Each of these editing modes has a use. What I'm going to use here is ripple off for this little belch cutting thing.
Ripple off.
And let's navigate to the item with control left and right arrow.
301201 CB1 201 CBT 160,002.
Okay, so that should be it. It is. And
ripple off.
Ripples off. So it'll just cut the item.
One item removed.
So let's talk about it. Sure. So there's a little gap there. The time is still the same. So let's do that again with another bit on this track. So let's talk about it. Sure. Anyway, so we're going to edit some of this stuff out, aren't we? All right, so let's make a cut between when I say we're going to edit this stuff out. Let's just cut out a sentence here.
One item added.
So we're going to edit some of this stuff out, aren't we? Yep. Yep, totally. Yep, totally. Yep, totally. So I have that at the end of totally, or the end of yup on that second track, but I'm just going to cut right here. So we're splitting right here.
One item added.
Totally. So let's go to item
40301.
So we're going to edit some of this stuff out, aren't we?
40.
Totally.
40301.
So we're going to edit some of this stuff out, aren't we? So this is Alex 1.
234.
Totally. So you can hear that these are all little various items now. We have 4 items on this track. And if I down arrow,
2 CBT to 1 item.
It says 1 item. So the second track still is untouched.
1 CBT 1 4 items.
Let's go back up. And I'm just cutting on this track. Totally. So now let's delete the... so we're going to edit some of this stuff out, aren't we? That bit out using...
Ripple off.
Ripple off.
1 item removed.
And now let's play it again. Yep, totally. So the time never changed. I'm still there. It's just that the left track is gone for that little expanse of time.
Undo delete items.
Let's undo the delete, and let's cycle to ripple all tracks.
Ripple off. Ripple per track. Ripple all tracks.
And now let's delete it again.
0 items removed.
Of course, it says 0 items. Yay, Asura not being accurate. Okay.
1 CBT 1 3 items.
Totally. So there you go. It's removed. Now let's go back a beat.
Beat 3.
Anyway, totally. So you could hear it just went anyway, totally. And so that just cuts out all of the tracks audio for the item that you remove. So there's a very horrible explanation of tracks and editing and removing items and things like that. I hope this was informative, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact me at alex@coolblindtech.com. Follow us on Twitter @coolblindtech. Visit us on the web, www.coolblindtech.com, and email us, cbt@coolblindtech.com.
Thanks for listening to today's Tech Cove. We hope you've enjoyed today's program. Tune in again next week at the same time for another edition with Sean Hosbury.